Hello and welcome into another edition of Sitting Down with Sgar. I'm the football voice of the Hoyas, Jeremy Huber, joined by Georgetown head coach Rob Scarlatta. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Good to see you, Jeremy.
Good to see you as well. Unlike our first few episodes this year, coming off a loss this week, a tough one against a tough Stonehill program. Kind of give us your thoughts on the defeat last Saturday.
That was a good, tough football game. A bunch of lead changes, some mistakes on both sides, and tons of stuff for us to learn about. We always talk about win or learn. There's a lot of things to learn about in that game. I think our team did a good job of coming out after a slow start and getting us to even at halftime. It's probably one of the better sequences we've had at the end of the second quarter rather, to get us back to a 13-13 score going into the locker room at halftime. And thought the kids played tough the entire day. Definitely wasn't a mistake-free day overall, and had a shot at the end to try to tie it to get into overtime. So, really impressed with how the kids kept coming back throughout the day. Definitely some things we'll look to improve on as we get ready for this weekend.
Rob, you talk about some mistakes, and you've mentioned to me this is a young team. I think everyone sees that top leadership group, guys who came back for the fifth years and grads, but under them, it's a lot of freshmen, sophomores playing a lot of key time. Is this something like fumbles and maybe decision making? Is that something that it's fundamentals? Is it coaching? Is it something that can get coached out of kids? Is it just them having to play more and be in those situations more?
Yeah, I think experience is a big word. We're trying to do a great job coaching each week, and making sure we're emphasizing all about the ball, doing a great job ball security and trying to force turnovers and tackling. Those are the two key things, no matter what level you watch, from Pee Wee all the way up through the NFL. If you have those two things, you'll win a lot of football games. So, I think youth is fine. Experience is a huge factor in some of these games. And we're going to play the best players who can give us the best chance to win. So all those things combined turned into, especially against a tough opponent, turned into, like I said, anytime you can play a 3-point game where you have a shot to win it at the end, I'm fine with that. There are enough things in that game that we can take away and make positives as we prepare to get into a little bit of the Ivy League schedule here for us, as well as preparing for our first Patriot League game in a couple weeks.
And Rob, you talk about the end of the game. That final drive was very interesting. You have a couple of shots down the sidelines, almost pay off with big plays. One of them actually did. And then you have a fake spike in there. You have the Hail Mary that didn't get off. Kind of walk me through your overall thoughts on that final drive.
Yeah, we do 2-minute drill all the time here. We do it every Tuesday, every Wednesday, and we try and figure out which situations we need to put the quarterback in, what we need to put the receivers in, all those things. So, when you look at the final sequences, Nick Dunneman is one of our best players. I'll give him the ball in critical times all the time. We told him that on Sunday. Unfortunately, on a run that he had, the helmet got right on the football, and uncharacteristically, he put it on the ground. That was probably the best part of the game for me. I really want to see what our football team would do. Will we rally down 3 and just let them end it and run the clock out, or we're going to come back? And, we have definitely have a mindset on defense that nobody runs the clock out on us. So Coach D did a good job up front. We used our timeouts and saved about a minute for our offense, which I believe is enough, even in that situation with no timeouts left. So TK did a good job throwing the ball downfield. Really impressed with Brock Beestick throughout the year, as well as in that game. He dropped the third down, which was a perfectly placed ball, and came right back and beat the corner on a 4th and 10 to put us in position. So, we'll get the end of the game sequence stuff cleaned up. I thought we could get another look for Ricky Abood at about 30 yards, at the 30-yard line, to kick that thing and put us into overtime. So, the more you're in those situations, the better you'll be with them. And we're just looking to keep stacking the 1% on top of each other, keep learning from these games, these wins, and, learning from the losses, and keep getting better throughout the season.
Rob, last one from that matchup. It was tough for your guys. You had some injuries up front, more injuries during the game, and against the running back like Corbett, a really good player in the NEC, had to be tough. How tough was it trying to slow them down without some key guys in the middle of that defense?
Yeah, I think that's the art of the season. You have to have enough depth on both sides up front, and really working with a next man up mentality. And that's it's very common for us to have guys have to step into big roles. I thought that up front, our guys did a good job. Veron Garrison was a war daddy. He played a ton of snaps. Ivory Harrell played a ton of snaps. Mateen played a ton of snaps. So, as those guys start getting into full game shape, I think that's good. And I think each week, just relying on our trainers and our kids to do a good job in the rehab and the rest and recovery to get back so they're ready for game day.
Let's move on to this week's opponent. Before we get into the Lions themselves, I have to ask a question that I think is kind of important for your program. How nice is it to be able to play Columbia? We know the Lou Little Trophy, very important, but you're able to play Columbia and then, of course, Fordham in conference. You're playing a game in the Big Apple every season. How important to that for a Georgetown program where we know the school does have that Northeast identity?
It's huge. Anytime that you can go up and play in front of the New York football family and just the New York Georgetown family is a huge deal. For me personally, my family is from up there. And at times for us, it feels, more like home because we have a lot of players and alums from that area. So, we're very blessed with our Wall Street connections for our players who are, here in our business school and get a chance to work through that network, whether it's internships in the summer or having these guys come out, prior to the game to see our players up in New York. So I always like playing up in New York. The kids really like playing at the facility. It's a great facility for us, and it should feel, like a home game for us as far as the support that we're going to get from the Hoya football family up in New York.
Rob, let's move into the game. The Lions coming off a tough loss against Lafayette, and their first game, Lafayette had played a bunch. Your thoughts on what you saw from Columbia on tape?
They're a good football team. They've gone through coaching change. Coach Bagnoli, who's a legend within the profession, someone that I've looked up to my entire career, is retired, and Mark Fabish has taken the program over. And just from watching them the first game, not much has changed. They do a great job coaching. They don't overcomplicate it, and they're going to force you to beat them in one-on-one situations. So they look like a team coming off of getting into their first game versus the Patriot League team that had played a couple. Other than that, it in my opinion, watching the film was a much closer game than the score would indicate. And I know that they'll be prepared. They'll be better coming into their second game, having gone through the first game experience.
Well, we'll see how that one goes. We know a big key to that game for your squad will be the run game. It's been there all year long, and now we bring a guy who's kind of spearheaded that run game this season onto the show with our Sitting Down with Sgar spotlight. It's Josh Stakely. And Josh, thanks again for joining us. It was good to chat with you kind of off the air last week, but thank you very much. And Josh, 3 straight 100-yard games for you. What's kind of been different this year for you?
I think what's been different is just the mentality coming into the games. I think I bring a lot more experience, and I'm more level-headed playing on the field. So I think it's benefited me a lot being able to run behind our strong O-line, as well as having a quarterback that I have good connections with that puts me in good opportunities to make plays. So.
Yeah, that's been a key. And we talked in our conversation last week about that offensive line. Obviously, there's some good talent on that line, but what have you seen that maybe it's been different this year than in the past for that group of 5 plus in front of you?
I think the line has really developed working great collectively, being able to all be one, and kind of they're all on the same script, same page. Brought in a new O-line coach that teaches the game very well, knows the game very well. So I think that's really helped the run excel this season.
Yeah, talking about Joey Parton, the offensive line coach for you guys. And again, you touched on the line, you touched on Tyler Knopp at quarterback, but your guy in the backfield with you, Naeem Kearney, he's had one heck of a year this year, and kind of a different story from you guys. Your guy that's been in there since 2019 has seen playing time where Naeem really had trouble, either injury or other things, getting on the field. But you said that you guys have kind of developed a relationship, not only as complementary pieces in that backfield, but also guys that can kind of critique each other and make sure that both are doing their best. To kind of talk about that relationship, what Naeem's done this year.
Man, me and Naeem's relationship has really developed. I would say me and him kind of hold each other accountable to another level, I would say. We enjoy being able to tell each other what we see when someone's not in, what we might have done on this play instead of doing this. So it's been a good kind of like 1-2, you got my back, I got your back type of deal. So it's been a blessing.
Let's bring Coach Scarlotta back in. And, Coach, what has Josh added to this football program?
Sorry about that. It starts with the leadership in the offseason. When you bring in 30 new players and a couple transfers, you want to be able to point at people and say, hey, this is the way we do things here. And Josh does a great job every day. It's not just on game day when he gets a chance to run the ball. I think some of the most impressive things he does is in the blocking game when he's blocking for Naeem or blocking for the quarterback throwing the football. So, Josh has been here. He's seen what we're trying to build, and he is definitely a huge part of the culture for us, the accountability, and just the tough style of play that we want to come out each week and make sure people understand that when they play against us, they're going to have to stop the run. It's going to be a physical ball game, and he brings that to practice every day. So it's been great to see his development, and looking forward to him continuing to rack up the yards and keep the defense off the field and help us win football games.
Rob, what's your best Stakely story?
My best Stakely story? I don't know. I love Josh and got after him this week. So 100 plus yards and 1 penalty. So that one probably isn't PG enough for the air. But the best thing about Josh is he's going to keep coming after you. There's one of those things where if it's not a great run, he's not going to hang his head. He's going to get right back in there and get after you. So he's one of those consistent players and has the ability. As he did in this game, He's really done a great job this year of creating some plays for himself, and I call those backs X factors. You put everything up on the board, and you're saying, "Well, we can't block all these guys, or we might miss this, or that's their best player." In his big run from the game this past weekend, last 2 weeks, he's been an X factor where he's been able to eliminate somebody, make them miss, and then pick up great yards for us. So, really proud just of his progression from his first year here with us till now, and looking forward to watching him continue to run this year.
We'll wrap it up on this, Josh. We've talked about before the recruitment for you, kind of late high school injuries. Some other schools fell off. Rob Spence got your tape from your high school coach, really liked what he saw, and you've come in and been a big part of this running game ever since. Getting off the field, maybe, or on the field and off the field, why Georgetown for you, Josh Stakely?
I think Georgetown has been a blessing in disguise. I never really saw myself coming out of state to go to college to begin with, because that wasn't really a normal thing to do back home. But I really appreciate the opportunity they've given me, placing me here at this university, and I'm gonna do all that I can to make what I can do. So.
Josh, I know we could go on for a while with you. Didn't even touch on the Poly Brotherhood with all the guys. You're a big part of that. Live with all those linemen. I know you've probably been doing some special things for them because they've been blocking very well for you this year, and you've been running very well behind them. Josh, thanks again for joining us on Sitting Down with Scar.
Thank you.
That'll wrap it up for another edition of Sitting Down with Scar. Remember, Georgetown on the road for the first time this weekend as they face Columbia. 12:30 Eastern kickoff. See it in person if you're in the Big Apple, or watch it locally or on satellite on SNY or online at ESPN+. Again, thanks to Coach Scarlotta, our guest, Hoya running back Josh Stakely, and producer Eliza Kravitz. That's all for this edition of Sitting Down with Scar. I'm Jeremy Huber. Hoya Saxa.